Hi everybody, it's Chris van Kerkjak, Bluerhino Safaris. I have a bit of a story to tell, and if you would indulge me, it's going to take a bit of a strange loop. If you know me, then stories always has a start and a finish. But it was ultimately going to end up at the wildebeest migration that we just did now in June, in the past June. And I want to show you some pictures and videos and just show you what it's about. But I think it's something that is worth thinking about, other than it's just another national park with another nature event. When I was building up in my career before tourism, I was in the mining industry, and I was lucky enough to travel all over the world for my job. And I went to northern Canada, into the Northern Territories, and I met and worked with some Eskimos on commissioning plants and working on plants. I went to South America and I met and worked with some of the Inca tribe people. I went to Australia and I met a few of the Aborigines in the area. I'm from South Africa. I've met a few Bushmen in my life. And the one thing that I realized was that these old nations, the Bushmen, the Inca, the Eskimo, these guys are different from the modern us. They have a different way of looking at life, thinking about life. And it made me think that not everything that we see around us is naturally the way it is. It became the way it is because of time and changes in environment and people and traveling and all of those things. And I'm experiencing a similar thing with traveling. When I go to the Serengeti and I see the migration, I've seen it 13, 14 times. When I see it, it always sort of pulls me back in and reminds me about how magnificent it actually is to see it. And if I see the gorillas, I have the same feeling. If I see the chimps, if I drive to Morocco and I see the completely different culture that there is, then it pulls me back to there's things in life that are interesting and worth finding out and exploring. Not just because it's another group of animals, but because it changes you, who you are. It changes your understanding of life. It's just very different. And the one thing people always ask me if I travel north and they say they want to see the gorillas, and I say I would go up in December, and then they say, isn't it hot in December at the gorillas? And I'm like, no, it's cold. You wear a jacket because it's winter. And it made me realize that we have these preconceived ideas of how the world works, especially in South Africa. Growing up in apartheid, we were so bubbled as in how to think and what to think that we missed out on a lot of interesting things. So if we go to Uganda in December, here is a picture of exactly that. The sun is over Pietersburg and we are on the other side of the planet. So no, it's not hot. It's nice and cool. It's actually quite cold in the evenings. So that's one thing that we always think about. And then once we leave South Africa and we travel further north, then for us it becomes dark Africa. It's almost like there's only a forest out there. In the meantime, someone who lives in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, they drive the latest models of Land Rovers there. They have Mercedes there. They have Land Cruisers there. They've got all the vehicles there. So if a vehicle needs 50 ppm diesel, it's not like the rest of Africa doesn't have it because they drive the same vehicles as us. I want to promote the Serengeti tour coming up next year. There's a lovely opportunity to combine the gorillas with the Serengeti next year. And I want to give you some feedback on the last Serengeti trip. So when we arrived at the Serengeti, we've now traveled for 10 days. We through Zambia, passed through the hot springs. We enjoyed a rest day there, into Tanganyika, 3 nights at Lake Tanganyika, boat cruises, snorkeling, relaxing, nice meals. It's a life-changing experience to go onto Tanganyika and just see how absolutely great these lakes are. Once you get to Malawi, Tanganyika, Victoria, those are lakes. Once you get to the Nile River, that's a river. The Zambezi is a river. The Vaal and the Orange is not big. So there's so much for us to explore. And that's what I try to do when I drive north, is see these things. We cross the Nile River, and especially next year with the Serengeti trip, we will cross the Nile River. We sleep there for 2 or 3 nights. You have time to raft on the Nile. It's really, the idea of the trip is to broaden your horizons, not just to let you see what the white-bearded gnu looks like in the Serengeti migration. So that's the whole point of it. That's why I do these things. That's what gives me a kick, is to let other people feel what I felt when I met Eskimos and Incas and saw the migration for the first time. That emotional feeling is really what it's about. And that's what I'm chasing, because it is so cool. But let's get to the migration for the year. 2024 saw one of my more interesting migrations. Now, I've seen the migration where there's a lot of animals running, and you get that feeling of movement. They are going from one place to another. I've seen the migration where today we go out, we see a massive herd here. Tomorrow we come back and that massive herd has moved 4 or 5 kilometers. And they are now on the other mountain, the next mountain. I've seen the migration where the animals are in the trees and it's just wildebeest and trees, but you can't clearly see them, but they're there. And then I've seen the migration where they are completely out in the open. I've seen it in the west, I've seen them in the north, I've seen them in the south. So where you find the migration is always a question of experience, if you ask me. But this year in 2024, it was specifically good because we saw a lot of those. Nothing better than I've ever seen, but we saw them in more versions of that. So we saw them in the open, we saw them amongst the trees, we saw them running, we saw them standing, we heard them around the campsite. So those things were all present this year. So we were just lucky for where we were, and that we could see more aspects of the wildebeest than we normally would. Normally you would see 3 or 4 of the 6 aspects. This year we saw maybe 5 of the 6. So where we thought, okay, in the balloon we'll see them because they were all over the place. When the guys went up in the balloons, they didn't fly over the wildebeest. They flew over the zebra, herd of zebra that's close by the picnic site. So yeah, that's how things change. But then we did have volumes, and good volumes, and something that was really good to see. So it was still nice, and to go out for the drive after sleeping at night and hearing the wildebeest, it is nice to go out for a drive and then see them, because they are so close. You can hear them. It sounds like a machine that's running somewhere, but it's just the amount of wildebeest that's standing around there. And then driving through these herds is something you can't explain. I can take pictures until I'm blue in the face and I cannot capture it. I looked at my best photograph to try and show you the depth of the animals, and even if I zoom in, I still can't see it on the screen, and I know they're there because I saw them with the binoculars. You stand on this mountain, you look across to the next mountain, and you can see them all the way up the side of the mountain, standing there, busy moving across and doing their thing. And so it's really difficult to capture these things on photographs. Plus, I don't take my good cameras with because it's unfair towards people. I always say they pay for the trip, I don't. So it's not my place to take pictures. So I just use my cell phone where I can. But to ultimately take you as a paying customer and travel with you into the parks, through the different areas, seeing the lakes, meeting people, realizing that Africa is really a great place to travel in, and then ultimately ending up in the Serengeti, which is a very expensive experience, and therefore important to go with someone that's not going to waste your money. You're going to get the value for money when you're in the Serengeti because you know where to go. It's very important. But ultimately arriving in the Serengeti and ending up with one of my guests standing next to his own vehicle after driving 7,000 kilometers from the Cape to get there and see something that he's always spoken to me about, to make that opportunity real, to me is super special. So to bring people to that point is something that I do. That is what my thing is. It's not just driving through the park and here you are, there's an animal, let's go home. That's not what we do. I try to get to a place where I make memories. I change the way you think about life. I change the way you understand life. What is the migration? Always the biggest comment that I get is, it is not what we thought it was. It's different. And that's it. If you want to experience it, then you go and you experience it. And then nobody can tell you what it's about because you've been there, you've seen it, you know exactly what it is about. And then not just that, but the Serengeti itself is such a brilliant park. It is the natural beauty of the Serengeti is just so phenomenal. The grasslands there is unreal. So if you are keen to have a life experience, then next year in May, June is a good opportunity because we are going to drive up to Rwanda, spend time at the Genocide Memorial, which is a life-changing experience in itself. Then we're going to go across into Uganda and we're going to walk the gorillas. It is a life-changing experience to spend time with gorillas. It is. Then we're going to go past the Nile River, which you probably haven't crossed in your life yet. And then all the way around to the Serengeti. And we're going to do the Serengeti. We are going to do the Ngoro Crater. Life-changing experiences. And then we're going to come back up. So for next year, 2025, we will do the gorillas, the chimps, the Nile River, and Serengeti and the crater in May, June. Perfect opportunity to experience a lot of things in one go. But most of my guests that have done it have done just the Serengeti with Zanzibar on one trip, and on another trip they do the gorillas. That's a 30-day trip, which gives you 60 days to do those few things. Where if we do them together, it's 33 nights. And you cover both of those. So if you are interested in just having an experience that will stay with you forever, then join me in 2025, either for gorillas and Serengeti together, May, June, or over Christmas when we will be in Rwanda and Uganda for the gorillas. So it is your choice. But don't miss out. Make time for it. Get it done. Don't wait until you get too old. Don't say when I'm 65 I'm going to start traveling. That's too late. By then you realize how much there is to see and how much there is to do. And then you're just running out of time. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll make a plan. We'll get you some space there. Start planning. Start saving. And before you know it, you're on the trip. And before you know it, the trip's finished. Because life just flies past at the current rate. Have a great day. Stay safe. And I'll see you on the next trip. Cheers.